This episode of Warp 5 is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 150,000 titles for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. Also, help us keep Star Trek discussion coming to you each day by becoming a Trek FM patron through Patreon. Get access to exclusive content and become part of the team. You'll find all the details at patreon.com/trekfm. That's patreon.com/trekfm.
Hi, this is Dayton Ward, author of a whole bunch of Star Trek novels, and you're listening to Warp 5 on Trek FM.
How we doing, Trip? Ready when you are. Prepare for warp.
Course laid in, sir. Request permission to get underway. Let's go.
Welcome, Boomers, to another episode of Warp 5, Trek FM's dedicated Enterprise show. I'm your host, Floyd Dorsey, and I have with me the guy that is trying to push Warp 5 to possibly Warp 6. I'm talking about my chief engineer and co-captain, Brandon Shea Matala. Brandon, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good today. It's been a long time since I've done a Warp 5 episode. Actually, no, it hasn't been. We've been very busy with Warp 5. We had a very big month last month. We released 5 episodes for the listeners, and we just wanted to do it as a thank you, and we just wanted to thank all of you guys for listening. We cracked over 10,000 downloads, which is our biggest month ever for Warp 5. So we're very grateful for you guys for all your support, all your downloads. You know, you can help us out by sharing the episodes on social media and just getting the word out there. And tell your friends, mention it to them, even if they don't like Star Trek Enterprise. You know, it might not be their favorite show. Tell them we're doing some great stuff on this podcast right now. We got some great interviews for you. So thank everybody, thank all the listeners out there. We really appreciate it for a wonderful, wonderful month.
Oh yeah, it's been great. You know, the response that we've been getting in the Babel conference on our episodes. I mean, I'm serious. It's called Warp 5. We might have to change the name though if we keep going like this. You're pulling in these great guests, and we've got some great shows coming up and that we've just put on. So yeah, it's been very fun on Warp 5.
Yeah, we got a couple of really good ones coming up as well. I mean, like, we're tentative right now that should be coming up. I mean, today's episode is Gary Graham, which is awesome. And next episode, we got a commentary coming along with Dayton Ward, author Dayton Ward. We're going to be doing a commentary on Carbon Creek, and we're going to have some more writers on. We're going to get David A. Goodman to come on to talk about the episode North Star, and Mike Sussman, who's the other half of the Phyllis Strong and Mike Sussman team. We're going to have him on in a couple of months as well. So I say a couple months because we're going back down to where every other week. We're not going to be doing it every week again. So that was a lot of work.
Okay, so Brandon, you spoiled the surprise. I guess everybody could have just saw the show art though and know that Gary Graham is coming on. So
yeah,
yes, Boomers, a special episode, and I say special because we've been saying they're special, and they all have been kind of special. So how can they be special if they're all special? You know, so yeah, Ambassador Saval might state that that's an illogical statement. You know, right? Yes, that's right. We have Gary Graham, Ambassador Saval, beaming over to join us very shortly. Gary's probably best known to Star Trek fans as Ambassador Saval, and he's also appeared on Star Trek Voyager for all you Voyager fans out there. However, Gary's also well known in the sci-fi fandom for his portrayal as Detective Matthew Sykes on the television version of Alien Nation. So yes, Brandon, you know what this means, right?
Well, but before we beam him in, I got an answer to your question. You said, how could this be more special? Have you ever read Animal Farm?
Yes.
Yeah. All interviews are special, but some are more special than others.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. And that's true, actually. But Brandon, we have Gary Graham from Alien Nation on here also. So you know what that means?
That means that this is now the Alien Nation podcast.
Right. We had Eric Pierpoint on just a little bit ago, and now we've got Gary Graham on. You would almost think this is the Alien Nation podcast.
Yes,
right?
Welcome to. I don't even know. I haven't seen Alien Nation in so long that I couldn't even come up with a podcast name for it. Like it's been so long since I've seen it. Like, it was a good show, and I watched it when I was a teenager, and I watched the movie and everything. But we could call it. Eric Pierpoint said that the male aliens gave birth. So we could call our podcast Pregnant Daddies.
Oh, my God.
Pregnant Daddies, the Alien Nation podcast.
Okay, well, we'll have that. It would be nice if we could get Gary and Eric to help us with that, but
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
So let's go ahead and beam in Ambassador Saval here.
Saw a young Marine in an airport, sitting on his duffel bag all alone. Another battle-scarred, war-weary hero, heading back to a place he calls home. I thought to shake his hand and maybe thank him for volunteering to take up the fight. But instead I turned to my gate. You see, I didn't want to miss my flight. Yeah, I was in a hurry. And that Sunday, sitting in a church pew, her Navy medals described where she'd been. I would have thanked her, but I had to get home. You see, the playoffs were about to begin. Yeah, that's right, I was busy. Thank you for your service. Why are those words so hard to say? They put their lives in the line of fire to keep us safe at home every day. Everything I have, I owe to those who paid the price. I wish I knew better words to tell them for the courage and sacrifice. I thank them for their service.
And joining Brandon and I here in the conference room is accomplished actor and thorn in Captain Archer's side, Ambassador Saval himself, Mr. Gary Graham. Welcome to Warp 5, Gary.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I made it. Here we are.
So, Gary, how did you get your start in acting?
So I was at the university, and I was looking around for some electives to boost my grade point average to get in a good medical school and become a doctor. And I bumped into some people that I got chatting with, and I sat in and audited an acting directing workshop. And I just had so much fun that I just changed abrupt directions and became a drama major, and then eventually spun up to Hollywood. And then before I knew it, I turned around and I had somewhat of a busy career.
Your first major film role was in Hardcore opposite George C. Scott. While you were working with him, did he offer you any words of wisdom that helped you in your acting career?
George wasn't that kind of guy. He would rather offer tips on playing chess. But if I pressed him, I was just sort of too much in awe of him and working with him. All my energy was going into pretending, to giving the illusion that I knew what I was doing. He was very easy to work with, and at least for me, maybe not for the director. George was in an interesting time in his life. There's a lot of dynamics going. I wrote about it extensively in my book, by the way, Acting and Other Flying Lessons, available on Amazon, I believe. It's Acting and Other Flying Lessons, a practical guide to film acting. I wrote about all my experiences up until that point. I guess I published it about 7 years ago or so. And there's a big chapter about making hardcore and dealing with getting to work with George C. Scott. I said getting to work with George C. Scott, who proved to be a delightful man, but a mercurial temperament. And it was quite the adventure. Working in the red light district on Broadway in San Francisco in the dead of winter at around 4:30 in the morning, things got really testy. And I did violence scenes with him. Most of it was done by the hard stuff was done by my stunt guy, but I did all the rest. I got banged up and bruised and thrown down Broadway Street. It was fun.
So, how did you come to the decision to write a book about your acting experiences, Gary?
I never really decided to do that. I was approached by a guy that I knew who's a disc jockey, and he had been doing this mail order 10-week course, how to be a disc jockey, and get your feet wet. And on the last week of his course, he would give them. That was back in the cassette tape days. He would send out these cassette tapes with homework, or he would give the students homework, and they would record their voice with these various radio broadcasting homework pieces, and he would send a critique back and with a new assignment. And this went on for 10 weeks. And then the last week he would hook up with a local DJ wherever this person was located around the U.S., and he would offer a deal to the disc jockey or the broadcaster. Says, hey, take my student in for a week and let him and then give him 20 minutes on air, and I'll give you $500 or something like that. I don't know what it was, but it sounded like a really good deal, and he was making a lot of money. And he says, we could do the same with you, Gary, in acting. I didn't know exactly the logistics of how that would happen, but I embarked on writing the text of what would be my course. In doing that, I just thought, well, who am I? What do I know about acting? Well, okay, yes, I've had a career of 25 years and studied under a lot of people and worked with some stars, and I've got a lot of tales to tell. So I just started, everything I knew about the last 25 years. Midway through the project, he let me know. He says, hey, I got a bail from this project. I got too many pressures at home, and I got to carry out my own business. So okay. And then I thought to myself, what am I going to do with these 75 pages of text I just wrote? And I thought, well, maybe I could write a book. I don't know if I can, but I embarked on it. And 5 years later, I had it all together and marketed it. So that's that. Acting and Other Flying Lessons, a practical guide to film acting.
Yeah, so you talk about flying as well. So tell us how your love of flying came about.
Oh, that was a kind of a thing. There was a TV movie called, what was that thing called? Danger Island. That's what it was. We did it some years back, and it was back when the 2-hour movies of the week were a big deal. And I was playing a pilot, and we were in Hawaii, and I was on an airfield. And in between sets, you sit in your director's chair and you read scripts or read books or whatever, or just socialize. And I'm watching hour after hour as they're setting lights and moving different setups and all that. I'm watching all these planes come in and land, and it was so graceful how they just came and did their flare and settled in, and it was just mesmerizing to me. And I remember when my dad a long time ago had an airplane. He would take us up flying, but never, we'd hold the wheel and say, hey, we're flying an airplane, but I never really was bitten by the flying bug. But it happened right there on a runway in Hawaii, on Oahu, watching these planes land. And I thought, oh my God, I'm playing a pilot, a guy who flies airplanes. I should do that for real. Why aren't I doing this for real? So when I got back to the mainland, I immediately signed up for flying lessons. I don't have my pilot's license, but I'm almost there. I got like 37 hours in the air piloting a small private aircraft. 7 of those were solo. So I've flown an airplane and done a lot of stuff, but I want to get back and finish it and get up in the air for real as an actual legal licensed pilot.
Oh man, that must be pretty awesome. I've thought about doing that myself. I've never actually flown a plane or anything like that. I've never really been in any really small planes, but I could just imagine the freedom.
It's doable. Yeah, it's great freedom, and you just there's parameters that you have to fit within, federal air regulations and all that, and learn how to talk to the tower and ground control and all that. And the process is fascinating. And you learn all about, first of all, you learn about aeronautics, lift, drag, thrust, and all that. And you learn the principles of flight, and you learn about the weather and the airspace regulations from various airports and states and cities. It's great. It's very fascinating. And I likened there were so many similarities in acting to flying a private airplane, to sticking a landing. There were just so many metaphors that popped up through the book that I use them whenever. The book is my experiences and also all the thousands of little bits of information I stole from anybody I could. It's a very entertaining book. Anyway, does that answer your question?
You bet.
So, Gary, we had Eric Pierpoint on the show a few months ago.
Oh, I'm very sorry. No, he's a great guy.
He was a great guest. He had great things to say about you. And he spoke about his time on Alien Nation. So what was it like taking over the role of Sykes in Alien Nation, and how did you make the role your own? And was there anything from James Caan's portrayal that you tried to bring to the role? I'll
answer the first question, and that will explain, and then I won't even have to address the second one. That answers in there too. I never saw the movie Alienation before I did the role. And when we were in rehearsals, Kenny Johnson, the executive producer, asked me, do you want to see the movie before we start and go? And I say, oh, no. Are you kidding? I'll drive you insane. Not to mention myself. No, I just wanted to bring my own take to it. And then after we shot the pilot, I went and saw it, and I said, oh, okay, he did that, and I did this. All right. No one's better. They're just both different. And I admire James Caan a lot. It was interesting. I met with Eric. Eric guided me on the project. I figure, you've got a series that's dramatic. There's some funny stuff in it, and there's science fiction. And basically, the main characters. I mean, they're all main characters, but it's basically these two cops. One from an alien world and one a human, an Earthling. So I thought, well, you've already got the opposites right there. So there's a lot of chance for humor and all that. And so I said, well, what would really be interesting if these guys were so far, not just literally, worlds apart, but just his temperament should be opposite of mine. It's the odd couple. And I want simple little things. In the beginning, after we did the read-throughs and costume fittings, and we're gearing up to go into, Kenny Johnson had all the aliens come in and put on alien makeup. One Saturday, I showed up in costume. It was sort of a dress rehearsal, if you will. And he just wanted us to walk around downtown. Eric and I walking together as this alien and a human cop, and just kind of feel it out and see what reaction of people. And we did that, expecting all kinds of bizarre reaction. And the most bizarre thing about it all, we went down to the bus station, right? And Grand Central Union Station, and walking around. And the most amazing thing about it wasn't amazing at all. So jaded are we Angelinos that everybody's, we bought gum and paper and Cokes, and we walk around all these, the little family, the family of Tanktonese, little flag family, and Matt Sykes walking around, and people barely gave them a second thought. They just go, oh yeah, okay, we got that thing going, okay. Nobody was going, whoa, what is? They just figured, oh, that's LA. There's all kinds of people here. Either human or alien or whatever.
That's hilarious. They didn't even notice.
It was pretty amazing. We just thought, wow, this is funny.
Wow, that's hilarious. No one even noticed.
Nobody even noticed. Speaking of things that nobody noticed, about 3 weeks into filming, this is a 5-week shoot. 3 weeks into shooting, I pulled up lame. I blew up on a Saturday. I blew my Achilles tendon out playing softball. which just broke my heart because I had to call up Kenny and say, hey, you might have to recast, man. The doctor says I should go immediately into surgery, and we were only 2/3 of the way through the filming. He says I should go into surgery, and he says, and if you can't go right now, I said, well, I'm doing a TV pilot. You know, I got another 2 weeks left, and I says, well, it'll be more difficult, but we can fix it up. You know, just wrap it up really good. So I called Kenny, and expecting he'd say, oh wow, I'm so sorry. You know, the part of a lifetime is just going to be given to somebody else, because I'm just like. And he says, oh, don't worry about it, Gary. We'll just tape it up real good, and we'll shoot around it. Oh, really? I said, wait, really? I'm not looking for. I'm not out. He says, no, we'll shoot around it. So sure enough, I had the doctor make me this molded plastic, high tension plastic foot piece that I just slipped into my shoe. Just Velcro taped it to the leg and then slipped it in the shoe and just kind of, you know, treaded softly. But you know, I still have stunts to do. I have this scene. I love the scene. I'm very proud of the way they did this in the pilot, where I'm chasing a perp around a corner, and he shoots up this flight of steps, and the shot was shooting down the steps as first the perp, and then I was supposed to round the corner and then run up after him. It was a key shot to establish me in the action sequences that a lot of them were done by in fact, most of them were done by my stuntman. They had this there was this door swinging on the stairway, and if you ran by it and just kind of gave it an elbow nudge, it would close, and it would push against the banister and then swing it over and close. So the perp rounds the corner. In the shot, the door is open. The perp runs around the corner, starts up the stairway, and as he does it, he just very, very gently or surreptitiously knocks the door. And as it bangs against the banister, and just before it closes, you see me come around the corner, and I do a withering look, like, oh, geez. And then I just take, you know, half step up the stairs, and then the door closes. Then they cut to a shot shooting up, which is the backside of my stunt guy. It was just, and the timing had to be perfect, and it was. They just cut it, and if you watch that sequence, you will swear Gary Graham is running up that staircase. But I couldn't. I could barely walk without a limp. There's no way I could have run up that stairway. So they did indeed shoot around it, and actually came up with some really, really clever techniques to mask it.
Oh man, the magic of Hollywood, right?
Yeah, really. That's really, for me, part of the fun, actually most of the fun of making movies, is working with the cameraman and the director and the other actors, solving problems, solving how are we going to shoot this. Everybody figure out, and you just, you know, a good director will take input from anybody, because anything that can help us make our day, you know, get in before time is up and budgets are busted.
So were you a fan of Star Trek before you got the role on Star Trek Voyager of Tanis in the episode Cold Fire?
I wouldn't say I was a Trekkie, but I watched it when I was growing up, and I was interested in it. I wouldn't watch reruns of it. If I saw it once, I go, got it. So a lot of people, and it's funny, if I go to conventions or whatever, and people want to talk about Star Trek, many fans, and I love the fans. They get very, very obsessive about some things with Star Trek, and it's a fascinating thing Gene Roddenberry came up with, and spawned all these generations of them. I get asked questions that are technical questions about the warp drive and whatnot. And I just have to say, man, hey, I'm an actor. This you do know this stuff isn't real. Of course I know it. It's just, but when you have the NCC, I'm sorry, I don't know. If it wasn't in my episode and I didn't say it, it was in my scene, I probably don't know what you're talking about.
That's so funny. I was just explaining to my son a while ago in the car because he was asking me a question that, maybe I can ask you. And I was like, well, wait a minute. That's more of a question that I should ask a show writer.
You should probably ask me, and I will watch me. You can hear me. My eyes glaze over. I go, I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
Yeah, I love it all. I haven't always watched it and followed it, and if I followed it, I didn't pay attention or something.
Well, on our last episode, we had Phyllis Strong on, and we got into those kind of questions, because we were talking about the episodes that she wrote, and she's thought of those things. And, we had Manny Coto on a couple of months ago.
Oh, nice.
And, he's talking about, that kind of stuff, and I told my son, I was like, but, actors, they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're not going to know all the details.
Yeah, we don't actually research the roles that much.
Right.
When I got hired to play Saval on the first day, I was elated to have this thing. I had auditioned for Star Trek probably 14 times over a period of, several incarnations. And, I almost wanted to ask him, would a Chinese accent help me get this part? Anything. It's like you guys have seen everything I've got thrown at this thing. But I had a good feeling about Saval, and apparently it worked. I just made some choices, and apparently they were rock solid with these guys, and I got hired, and I was happy. And then I thought, well, I don't know anything about Vulcans really, except what I just sort of made some assumptions, and I showed up in costume and makeup, and Rick Berman looks at me and goes, you look like a Vulcan. I go, well, thank you. Yes, I guess I do, but can you tell me who am I? Tell me about the Vulcans. And he just looks at me with a smile on his face and puts his arm around me and says, let's walk. And we just walked around the soundstage for the next hour while they were preparing the first shot. And he just told me all about Vulcan and Vulcans and how, even the word Vulcan is fire. It's combustion. And he told me about the Vulcan emotional content or emotional disposition naturally is quite volcanic and fiery and tempestuous and passionate. And it's not that they feel no emotion. They have just perfected over the millennia. They've perfected the art of masking their emotions, or less they destroy their people. And well, now that's fascinating. That's fascinating to play. And what I drew from Saval's particular case, he's been the ambassador on Earth for some time, and he's a nemesis to many of the humans, and they're having a difficult time earning his respect and cooperation in many times. And it's because he raises his voice to make an argument in the pilot, raises his voice, and everybody stops and turns in that very un-Vulcan-like behavior. And Archer turns to him and says, raising your voice to make your point. You have been on Earth too long. And I thought to myself, that's kind of the key to this particular Vulcan. I first learned all about the Vulcan and where I came from, and then how it's changed me, and it really disturbs me to find out that I've been so influenced by Earth's culture. So that was something heavy to play. That conflict and that self-loathing that it can generate in such a perfectionist as Saval. To suddenly realize that it's creeping into him, and there's nothing he can do about it. He can't get reassigned. He can't get off of that rock. It's really weird. I thought, oh great, Vulcans, I'll just be a walking automaton, and I found out that that's not the case at all. And what I thought was going to be the easiest assignment I ever had in my life ended up being the most difficult, I must say.
So, Gary, we actually have several listener questions that we'd like to sprinkle in as we go. We announced about several weeks ago that we were going to be having you on, and we have a listeners group on Facebook.
Having me on, are you? You're having me on. Pull the other one.
And we have a listeners group on Facebook. It's called the Babel Conference, and Trek FM Network, and all the listeners that go in there and they talk about episodes. They talk about things like that. We ask them what questions do they want to hear. So we had a couple of listeners, Tim Cooper and Justin Oser, had actually wondered about the portrayal of Vulcans on Enterprise. And they wondered about the direction that the producers gave you. They wondered, were you made aware of the Vulcan arc or what they were wanting to do with the species, or did they just kind of turn you loose and let you go at the beginning?
Good questions. The first two, those are three questions. The first two, I think I just answered it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I heard it said in some chat rooms that Braga and Brandon Braga and Rick Berman were they're swerving off the Star Trek template, and I didn't know how to answer that. Because I really wasn't that well versed with the Next Gen and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. I really wasn't that well versed, so I just had to say, whoa, I don't know. I just thought it was pretty good drama, pretty well done.
And what were you made aware of what they were wanting to maybe do with the Vulcans, or were you just kind of turned loose and they just rode around it?
I was not, but I just kind of pieced it together. And by season 4, when Manny Cotto came in, it all crystallized kind of clearly. And I think he really did a great job of unifying at Vulcans from the original series way, and from just some new innovative, and mostly I was happy because he has a big affection for a Vulcan, and since that's in my wheelhouse, I ended up working a whole lot. When I first got this role, I was signed for just the pilot. I had no deal in place for should it get picked up and should it go 13 or 22 episodes or whatever. I had no deal in place, so this could be. Well, here's the Vulcan ambassador, and in the next episode it could have been, well, it was sad about what happened to the Vulcan ambassador, but here's the new Vulcan ambassador. It could have been that easy if they didn't like what I was doing in the pilot. And I knew that, and I purposely wanted to make the ambassador a particularly barbed pain in the butt for Archer. He should be a foil. He should be, if I wanted to work at this show, I was going to make myself a real SOB and really be the smarmiest, snottiest, haughtiest, not hottest, ladies, okay, but haughtiest ambassador you can imagine, because then maybe they'll bring me back. And my plan worked. My scheme, I took their lines and I was just as snotty and arrogant as I could possibly be. And I go, yes, I'm in. And the arc, and I thought the arc should be, though he resists it, they give him nothing but trouble, so he gives them nothing but trouble back. Eventually, he comes to see, and this is in the mode of a Gene Roddenberry, he comes to see the errors of his ways slowly. He develops some friendships, and he starts to respect. He goes from barely able to tolerate the pink skins to actually coming to admire them and even respecting them, and such that he would sacrifice his own life for the Federation. I thought that was a pretty cool way to go. And they just, we never really talked a lot about it. They don't ask actors for their arcs. How would you like to see your character develop? But I just put that vibe out there without even talking to them, really. I in my performance, I was leaning that way. So fortunately, they saw it right, and Manny Cotto in particular saw that the arc should be completed. He should come out and be a true friend of the humans at the end, having detested them so much at the beginning.
Looking at, when I went back and looked at the list, I've watched the series several times, and I'm a big fan of yours. I was a big fan of yours before I actually saw you on Enterprise, and I was very happy when I saw that you had the role. And it looks like you only have 12. You were only in 12 episodes, but it just seems like you were always there. You were always there. That's how big of a character that you built.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And it appears like your 12 episodes, most of them are during the season 4, during Manny Cotto's run. What was the shift like as you moved into season 4 on the series, like for you, it seemed like you were getting a lot busier.
Yeah, I got called to work a lot more often, and I thought, damn, this is nice. I like the way the arc is opening up. It's like maybe I was hypnotizing them from afar, ESP or something. But that's how I saw it developing. They agreed, and God bless Manny Cotto. That's all I can say. Great group of people to work with, by the way. I loved CBS and Paramount. They just took real good care of us, and all the people that they hired were just top notch, and the cast and the crew, everybody was just so great.
That was actually a listener, Shoaib Rahib, would ask, what was your experience like working with the regular cast and crew of Enterprise?
It was from the top down, from the star, from Archer. Scott just was a real leader and set the tone. And the tone was dedicated but light, smooth, and cool and relaxed. And everybody was just. I didn't feel the same kind of disruptive tension that plagues many sets. I felt nothing but supported and appreciated, and everybody was just great and good humor and relaxed, and made it fun and everybody just worked really hard all the time, but it was a fun thing. It was a fun work, and it was lots of laughs, and it was just great experience. 10 out of 10 stars. But it was that said, I came off of Alien Nation, and Alien Nation was, I had much more control and power in that, but also, the burden of responsibility. Eric and I did. Not that there weren't many other people carrying the load, but there was this extra special load on us to make this thing fly and make it work and make it entertaining and if we had a question, something we wanted to try, this thing was all in-house at the studio that we had. The writers were upstairs with the producers, and they're going over different scenes and whatnot, and the editors were there, and I could run off. I could just say, hold on a second, give me 5 minutes, please. I'd run off and ask for a clip or something from the editors, and then rush upstairs and burst into a meeting and say, Kenny, real quick question. What if we did this? And I'd get an instantaneous response, just as fast as I could run. I'd come back to the set and go, yeah, we're going to do this. And the directors were real cool about it and just, laughed it off, and we shot it. The general thought on Alien Nation was, when in doubt, shoot it both ways. We'll figure it out in the editing room. Sometimes you don't want to trust that, but in this case, it worked out great. They were masterful. Going off of that kind of loose goose, really easygoing set to Star Trek. Star Trek isn't run like that. It's run more like a military, like an aircraft carrier. It's military precision, and we don't shoot it both ways, and we just everything is by the book. And I had a little difficulty adjusting to that but it kind of helped my character too, because Soval was definitely from that sort of temperament.
Did you have a particular director that you especially like to work with on Enterprise or on Alien Nation? And this question was submitted by Justin Ozer. Oh,
that's a good question. I've worked with so many, and gosh, that would be a long list. I have very few. A much shorter list is the directors that I wouldn't want to work with again. That is a very short list, but I'm not gonna say that on the air.
Okay, we won't. Well, I guess I'll scratch that question out. No, just kidding.
That's okay.
So many good editors end up sometimes being great directors. Former actors quite often are lots of fun, really helpful because they know what you're going through. There's just a lot of great directors. The best directors are the ones who have an idea what they want, but they'll let you work, and they'll just kind of stay out of the way and let you work, and then come up and just kind of whisper something, or just in a low tone, just kind of mention something and help you that way if you're missing something or doing something that might not be apropos. But the best directors I've come to find really don't say a lot. They don't have to. They just let you go. and just watch. The main thing is to watch for consistency. Make sure consistency is there, and then wherever you went, we followed.
So, Gary, you've appeared in several Star Trek fan films since your time on Enterprise. So, what is it about fan films that appeals to you?
Freedom. A lot of it comes down to when they're getting you so inexpensively, shall we say. Getting you so inexpensively that the actor has no qualms about saying, well, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to try this. And usually the director will say, okay, let's just let it go. And so it's a freedom to try a lot of different things that you maybe ordinarily wouldn't. You'd ordinarily just kind of get their quick sketch of it and then do something traditional or expected. But I like to mix it up. I like the freedom of having a small budget, and everybody has to figure out how to make it work. It's lots of fun. I just wish they'd pay more.
So how did your experiences differ on working on Gods of Men, Renegades, and Prelude to Axanar?
Axanar was shot really quickly, as I recall. And the conditions were nice. It was LA out here, and it was just easy going, like making a movie with friends. Now, Gods and Men that we shot in upstate New York in the dead of summer, after a bunch of monsoons came through and just flooded the place with this hot rain that made it very, very humid and very hot. And the bugs were just devils. They wouldn't leave us alone. And the cell phone connections were very bad. And what else? The plumbing in the studio they were using broke down as soon as we got there.
Oh,
and
man.
So it was very stenchy in there, very uncomfortable physically, very hot. The studio was very, very hot and uncomfortable. But you know what? When the camera, we were working with some wonderful people, and Tim Russ was directing, and we had our cinematographer, we had a cameraman from Enterprise as our DP, and working with wonderful actors. And as soon as action started, we forgot how uncomfortable it was. That wasn't even an issue. We didn't care because it was just so much fun to do this picture. And then they'd yell cuts, and then we'd go back to our misery. But it was a fun 10 days.
We have a few listener questions. It's just shooting all around the place here, kind of a chef's buffet of listener questions.
Good.
Rebecca Skipper asked, what episode of Enterprise was your favorite to work on, or what was just your favorite in general?
That's a good one. I kind of liked that scene where Shran, played by Jeffrey Combs, is torturing me I think that we shot that was about 8 hours worth of work shooting that scene. So it was exhausting, physically demanding, but wonderful. Anytime I get to work with Jeffrey Combs, it's a good day. I just love him.
So now you may not know so much about season 3 of Enterprise because you weren't in it as much, but in season 3 of Enterprise, they took on this darker tone, this 9/11 parable, and then season 4 of the show really took this prequel format to the original series. How did you feel about the tone of Enterprise and how it switched up for the last 2 seasons? This is a question submitted by Brandon Coles.
That's a very, very bright, intelligent question that I am out of my pay grade here. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. It was the Delphic Expanse stuff. I didn't like it personally because it took me. I'm on Earth, and they're out in the Delphic Expanse, and I couldn't talk Saval or talk to Paul into not going. It's like I was kind of her surrogate father there on Earth, and I looked after her, and I worried about her. But I only had one episode to even indicate that.
You'd have liked it better if you'd have stowed away in the ship.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping it would go longer, but such is the case. So when Axanar came along, I thought, well, this is kind of cool. It's kind of the drama continues. I still think that Axanar. I thought Axanar and Paramount CBS should join teams, and explore that story. That's what I thought. But as I say, I'm an actor. Who listens to actors?
Is there any talks? Or are you still planning on being in Axanar, whatever the format ends up becoming for that? Now that it's been
we'll
settled.
See. I don't know. I don't know. We've had preliminary talks. A bit confining, the restrictions that the settlement placed on Alex's future plans on it. So I don't really know. I don't know what 2 15-minute segments. Hopefully we'll get the story told one way or another. I'm just an actor. Have I said that before? That's that's the equivalent in Star Trek or sci-fi interrogations. Oh, I'm sorry, interviews. That's tantamount to pleading the fifth.
Very good. I understand. Listener Dan Leckie asked, how did you approach such roles as the Mirror Serval in A Mirror Darkly or the alternate Serval in Twilight, since it was a different? How did you feel when you saw those scripts?
I came in, well, I appealed to their mercy, really. I said, guys, I don't really get this script, and I've read it twice. I'm worried about myself, but I don't really get it. And I didn't see the original series version of this, and so I don't really know. I understand I've gone through some kind of space anomaly, and things are opposite, and it's a parallel universe. I understand that, but when Archer is doing this, and this is on the set with Scott Bakula and Jolene Blaylock, and I think we're getting guns drawn off or something. And I said, and Scott's doing a line, and he turns to me, and I have a line. We're rehearsing, and I have a line, and I say, see, that's another thing. Scott, are you now the bad twin? Are you a fifth version? Are you an outside entity that is watching you deal as the bad Archer with the good Archer? And Scott just looks at me and turns around and goes, oh, God, will someone come here and get Gary a script? He walks away. And I know Scott, he's a good friend. He's a very funny guy, and I knew he wasn't mad. He just was oh, God, we have to explain this thing to another actor one more time. But I sincerely, try as I must, I couldn't figure out what it was all about and why T'Pol was suddenly this, and jerking me around, and suddenly I'm very the opposite of arrogant and haughty. I'm humble and doubting myself, and I just thought, well, this is fun. Don't get me wrong. I'll say the lines and believe them, and it's fun. I'll be damned if I understand this episode. And I just, even after the episode wrapped, but when I saw it on television, I said, oh, okay, it makes perfect sense. I see what they're going for.
Very good. That's good to know.
Well, we'd just like to tell you, Gary, that that two-parter, In a Mirror Darkly, it's called, is a fan favorite, and a lot of people put it at the top of their list for Enterprise episodes.
Nice. I was just happy that I could actually pilot the Enterprise for about 20 seconds. It was lots of fun doing that too. It was special effects. I love working around special effects, things exploding and all that. Even though there's always possibilities of something going wrong. Been on many sets where that was the case, but still, I love things popping around. It helps get you in the mood. You know, things exploding and dropping and blowing up, and you have your critical marks. You know, they use this term critical marks when you have to go forward and hit your mark on something, meaning critical for focus and all that. But it takes on a new meaning when there's fire involved and explosions, and these really are critical marks. You want to keep that face the way it is. So it was a lot of fun filming it.
Star Trek Discovery is coming sometime, and Sarek is actually going to be played by James Frain on this upcoming episode they've announced. Greg Mullenby asked, since Serval could be a mentor to Sarek, have you been approached to be in Discovery yet?
No, I know nothing. If there are conversations about this, I know nothing about them. But Did I mention I'm an actor? They don't tell us anything. They tell us, they call us up and say, okay, so we got the deal closed. And I go, wait, what deal? Oh, the Star Trek thing. I said, huh? What? Oh, didn't somebody call you? No. Yeah, working in 2 weeks. Often the way it goes. And I go, okay, I'm just hanging around, training and waiting for orders.
From a fan's perspective, Greg's asking, since time-wise, we're talking, fandom in the universe, time-wise, it would make sense that Sarek, who is Spock's father, would be mentored by Soval, because he would be the direct ambassador, like right after your character, Sarek would become the ambassador of Earth. So the spin here, this is for your agent. Your spin here is that you need to show up on Discovery as the handoff to Sarek.
There you go. The handoff to Sarek.
Yep.
Doggone it, as soon as I get off the phone here, I'm going to call my agent.
Right.
The handoff, I'm the handoff to Sarek.
Yeah, I mean, you would be the direct line. You would be like, Sarek should be learning from you how to be the ambassador. It would make a lot of sense in universe. That's why Greg asked that. So thank you, Greg, for that.
If they agree, I agree.
Right. You're an actor. You'll show up when they call, right?
I'm an actor. Right. Give me a call time.
Right.
Give me my lines. You will swear that I came up with those are actual thoughts.
Right on. So we have one more question for you here, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
You've released some music with Lyle Engel. Tell us about the creation of your album and the charity that you're donating 20% of your proceeds to, the Wounded Warrior Project.
Yes. Well, they had some problems, and it wasn't quite clear whether that was since then they had some. This is after we hooked up to benefit them. Yeah, we just liked the Wounded Warriors, and we donated, I think, 20% of our proceeds for the music to the Wounded Warriors. We still do that, but we also donate to an organization called Ride to Recovery, which is a group based out here that in the interest of working the GI, our veterans back into mainstream living here in America. They take wounded soldiers and adapt specially fitted bicycles for them to go on these rides. They have periodically throughout the year. My band has played for several of these. The Ride to Recovery from San Francisco to Los Angeles, about 500 miles or so. And we play when they come in and are getting refreshments. We support our troops.
So when you guys, do you write music together or do you just sing? What kind of instruments do you play?
This is a buddy of mine out here in LA, Lyle Engel. He's a film sound engineer and editor, and also a musician. So I said, well, we should get together with guitars and jam sometime. So we keep saying that and keep not doing it, and finally call him up and say, hey, let's actually really get together, okay? So I bring my guitar over to his studio, and he's got a recording studio, I find. So, well, that's kind of cool. He says, well, you want to jam or you want to write something? So I say, wow, okay, we could write something. He says, what's on your mind? I thought, well, I'm kind of pissed off about a certain political situation. I told him what it was, and he started writing, and a half hour goes by, and he's got 2 verses written, and I've written a chorus, and then we come up with a bridge and a 3rd verse, and I repeat the chorus, and we got a song. It took us 2.5 hours. Wow, this is incredible. So we came back the next day and went into his fine studio, and he's such a great sound engineer. We just banged this song out, and then he's editing that, and I go off and write another song. And meanwhile, he writes another song. So we got 3 songs. They come out, and we record those. And then he writes another song, and I wrote another song. And we sort of met together and kind of worked out parts and recorded them. We had 5 songs, all in the space of about a week or 2. And we've been playing them around. We played them at various venues in LA. Great fun. Great fun. I enjoy writing songs. In fact, I have a another band called the Sons of Kirk, and we're going to play. We played last August at the Star Trek convention there at the Rio. Played 3 nights up in the Voodoo Lounge, and it was a big hit. And I had taken 5 classic rock songs that I knew, and I just applied humorous Star Trek lyrics to them. I reached out and got some studio musicians that I knew, and we did some rehearsal, and we showed up in Vegas, and we played 3 nights in the Voodoo Lounge, and people kind of loved it. So we've been asked by Creation to be the house band for the next Vegas, August 2nd, in at the Rio. Nice. So writing songs now. So we're about to go into rehearsals. And that'll be fun.
So you mentioned your book at the beginning that can be available on Amazon. So could you tell our listeners again what the name of that book is?
It's called Acting and Other Flying Lessons, a Practical Guide to Film Acting.
And then what are some other projects that you're working on or have finished or about to start on that our listeners can be looking out for?
I am working on co-executive producing a series that we're going to be shooting. We're planning on shooting in the fall. A lot of it involves a lot of music. So it'll be I'll get to act and play music in it. So I'm excited about that. We're just we're finalizing the script right now. Script of the pilot, I should say. We're going to do like 10 episodes, starting probably late September, early October in LA, shooting LA.
Cool. And that could be released this fall if the pilot gets picked up?
Yeah, I don't know when it could be released. We're probably talking early spring of next year.
How can our listeners follow you on social media?
Gary Graham on Facebook, and at actor Gary Graham on Twitter.
And do you have a website?
I do, but it's in disrepair, so it needs some tender loving care. I'm in between what do they call them? Web mutts.
Okay.
One young lady who was doing it used to call it web mutt. I'll be your web mutt.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Warp 5, Gary. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
It's been fun.
Stay with my deeds in my brain. The roots are my family, the trunk is my savior. The branches protect me from the wind and the rain. Now the government fee is taxing my tree. They say they can grow one much better than me, and they try to create a utopian state where everything's free to feel everyone's pain. The tree grows high.
So Brandon, Gary Graham. So what did you think about that?
That was pretty good. I mean, it's pretty neat to listen about how some of his early acting experience and how he got involved, and that story that he told about his sore foot on the Alien Nation pilot episode was pretty amazing. I mean, you don't get a lot of those behind the scenes stories. It was really fun to listen to.
Right. And I mean, seriously, the magic of Hollywood can do amazing things. And he takes like half a step and then bring in the stunt double. Boom, we have a stunt double run up the stairs for him. That was pretty amazing. So listeners, we actually, I had a ton of questions that we were asking, but Gary did such a great job with his stories and with his interviews, he actually answered a ton of your questions. So like I had questions from Dan Leckie, I had Shoaib Rahib, I had Tim Cooper, Justin Oser. Thank you all so much for submitting your questions. And I had them in the show notes, but Gary was just going right down the line almost as if he could see my show notes and he was actually answering them. So Brandon and I are actually skipping ahead on the show notes trying to find what he hasn't already answered.
Yeah, he was a great interviewee. It was awesome.
Right. I mean, we didn't even have to ask him questions. The guy is a pro. He is a pro. So
did you know he's an actor?
Yeah, I think he may have mentioned that. That's pretty cool, right? Right. Yeah, that was awesome. Again, I am serious. I didn't realize he only appeared in 12 episodes of Enterprise. He is such a big personality, such a big deal, and he made that character so big. I honestly thought he was on a lot more than just 12 episodes. I mean, Porthos was probably on 12 episodes. Of course, I mean, Porthos is kind of a big deal too, but
yeah, I mean, Porthos like the second star of the show, right after Archer, right?
Yeah, right. Speaking of Porthos, my wife Ashley asked if we could have him on soon. Maybe do like a video cast of Porthos, but I told her we would have to work on that. So, but yeah, Gary Graham, that was very interesting. Very interesting. His stories coming from the sets, and just the even when he talked about the fan films, I mean, I kind of thought that might be a reason, but the freedom of being an actor and just trying what you want and not having to get caught up in basically studio bureaucracy is kind of what he said that he really liked about it. So that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a U.S. Store iTunes review that showed up just last week. It's from Alexander Gates. It was 5 stars. It said, "Boldly podcasting. I discovered this podcast and started listening in earnest during a recent rewatch of Star Trek Enterprise. Listening to a currently produced podcast while watching the series made me feel like Enterprise was still fresh and new. I love the interviews with the cast and crew, as well as behind-the-scenes discussion and insight on the show. The length is perfect, short bits on a variety of topics, including a recent highlight on the toys sparked by the show. This is a must for anyone watching or who loved Enterprise." So thank you so much, Alexander, for that 5-star review. We really, really appreciate it.
We're glad you like the short format, and we're sorry that today's episode is so long.
Well, I mean, Gary Graham, he can talk about what he wants to talk about,
Gary Graham wants to talk. We let Gary Graham talk. He's an amazing interviewee.
Speaking of the reviews, we had our Blu-ray contest, and we drew a winner, and the winner was Stronger Than Zetan, and he actually contacted me, and his real name was actually Justin Trujillo. So if you see Justin in the Babel conference, you can tell him congratulations on that Blu-ray set. It's already in the mail to him, and he will be get warming that thing up very quickly, I'm sure.
We also got an email that I'd like to read to you guys. Now, it does talk a little bit about my other show, Melodic Treks, as well, but I thought we should read it here because I think it's Warp 5 that prompted Del Hurd to contact us. So, Del, first I'd like to apologize for taking so long to read this out on air, but we do greatly appreciate you and your feedback. I mean, it really moves us, and this is why we're doing it, is for the listeners. So when you reach out to us and tell us how much you're enjoying, especially with the reviews on iTunes, for everybody who's done that, it really makes us feel good, and it makes us know that we're appreciated. So we appreciate you for sending in the email. So Del Hurd had this to say. He said, "I need to thank you 3 times over. First, for suggesting that I check out the movie Pontypool. Remember that, guys, Pontypool. Amazingly, my local library had a copy, and I watched it last night. You are absolutely right. It was great. I don't know why Stephen McHattie is not a bigger star, because he was just wonderful in this movie. Second, for suggesting that I read Star Trek Federation. I recently joined the Star Trek group on Goodreads." So that's our listeners group for our Literary Trek show. "And you were kind enough to make a number of suggestions for books that a beginning Trek reader might enjoy. I am halfway through Federation, and I am loving it. When I finish it, I will start on Spock's World. Lastly, for your podcast, Melodic Treks, since beginning to listen a couple of months back, I've purchased all of the movie soundtracks as well as the La La Land TOS collection. It is all that I listen to in my car anymore, and it makes my daily commute so much more pleasant. Well, that's it. I won't take up any more of your time. I just wanted you to know that your contributions to the network are very much appreciated and do positively affect the lives of the people who listen. Sincerely, Del Hurd." Thank you very much, Del Hurd. Although I'm sad to say that all you're listening to is Star Trek music in your commute. I mean, we were hoping you'd listen to Warp 5.
Or melodic tracks, right?
Or melodic tracks.
Well, I'm sure that,
or literary
that's
tracks.
just in between us releasing episodes. He's already listened to the back catalog.
Makes sense.
And,
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's right.
Excellent. Right on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Del. It actually feels really good that we're not just talking into the void, right, Brandon?
Yes, I know.
Actually, we have the listeners out there. Thank you so much for supporting the network and supporting Warp 5. Talking to Gary Graham is not the only thing we've been doing on Trek FM this week. So here's what else you may have missed elsewhere on the network.
Previously on Trek.fm, the 602 Club.
I saw Spaceballs first. Because, of course, I'm, the huge Star Wars fan, and that is a hilarious spoof of Star Wars, but Mel Brooks works in all of these other great spoofs along with that.
Melodic Treks.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell stories about, I don't know, not just themes, but characters and connections between characters that matter, because I tend to write songs that are metaphors close to metaphors, so it's the truth in plain sight. I always write the truth in plain sight. It's always right there waiting. But sometimes if you're not paying attention, you can't see through the metaphor, then you don't see what the truth is.
Stage 9, a podcast about the people who make Star Trek.
I don't know much more than the fact that the entire time I was watching it, I didn't believe that a single thing in that was actual documentary footage in any way, and that the woman that was supposedly this psychologist was anything but an actress.
And that's what else is happening on Trek.fm.
Check out these shows and find out what we're talking about in your favorite corner of the Star Trek universe. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Windows Phone, or you can go to our website and download the MP3 file or grab the RSS link. And if you're an Apple user, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because that helps other Apple users find our show easier. And with the reviews that we get, just like we had the review earlier from Alexander Gates, that actually helps us become more visible and it helps us grow the show. And thank you so much for all of you listeners that help us share our announcements in Facebook. Those are so great. And then all of your comments in the Facebook groups are so awesome to get to listen to and get your feedback. Another way you can help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week is to become a patron of the network on Patreon. So if you visit patreon.com/TrekFM, that's patreon.com/TrekFM, you can find all of our current goals and milestones. And remember, for just $1 a month, if what you hear you really like, it really could help us out. I mean, if all of our listeners just donated $1 a month, that would just take our network to the next level. We could hire editors with that kind of cash for just $1 a month. If you wanted to pop up to $5 a month, you have access to the Patron Zone. And Brandon's actually a manager of the Patron Zone. So Brandon, what's been going on in the Patron Zone lately?
We've got lots of early releases for you. We got lots of exclusive content being contributed by the hosts of the network. There's some wallpapers up there that you can download, and it's really, really cool. It's a great place to go. So check it out. If you donate at the $5 a month level, you can get access to patron.zone, which is where you can find all that great stuff.
Very good, very good. And then if you wanted to pump it up, $15 a month gets you to the Patrons Roundtable, which I was just thinking about today. I was on the Patrons Roundtable. You were on the Patrons Roundtable.
That's where I started. You bet.
That's where Richard Marquez, I was on the first Patrons Roundtable I was on, Richard was on. So I was talking to him the other day, and it made me think of like, oh yeah, he's got started there. I mean, you just go around the network right now, and almost all of our show hosts now have gotten started on the Patrons Roundtable. So for $15 a month, you can try your chance at podcasting. And if you wanted to pump it up to $25 a month, you actually get to be named as associate producer of your favorite show. And speaking of associate producers, I want to thank Mike Morrison and our newest associate producer for Warp 5, Tim Cooper, for supporting the show through patreon.com. Also,
Stop the press.
Oh, wait a minute. We have another associate producer?
We do. Floyd doesn't know what this is, so this is a surprise for him. So he's getting here for the first time. Justin Ozer.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much, Justin. So Justin is actually our newest associate producer for Warp 5. Very good. Thank you so much. So Mike Morrison, Tim Cooper, Justin Ozer, thank you so much for being associate producers of Warp 5. We surely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So we got to give these guys roles. So you can be Captain Archer. I'll be Trip. Mike Morrison can be Phlox.
Okay.
Tim Cooper can be Reed.
Okay.
And Justin Oster can be Hoshi.
Uh-oh. Okay. Justin's on the mic. He's over.
Or Porthos.
He's on the comm. Or Porthos. Justin.
Well, Porthos is the second star, right? I mean, that's a pretty
true.
big
That's
role.
true. Justin may want to be chef. I don't know.
Well, he could be chef. Yeah, he could
Right.
be chef.
So, yes, I'd also like to thank Tony Robinson for creating our very cool show art. Thank you so much, Tony. And Brandon, thank you so much for handling the editing and publishing of Warp 5.
You're very welcome.
If you'd like to get in touch with us here at Trek FM, you can always find us at trek.fm/contact and look at the sidebar on the show page, or you can go to speakpipe.com/trekfm and leave us a voicemail. You can all.
I dare you. I dare you to leave us a voicemail. Chicken.
The engineer is daring you. He will put you.
Chicken.
He will put you in on the show if you'll leave us a voicemail. Let us know your opinion about something that Gary Graham may have spoke about, or maybe one of our past episodes that we've been talking, like some kind of a question that we've asked. Leave us a voicemail. That'd be so cool to put you on the show. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can find us on Twitter at TrekFM, Facebook at facebook.com/TrekFM, and as we mentioned throughout the show, the Babel Conference. Type the Babel Conference, BABEL, into the search field on Facebook, or you can go to our website at trek.fm and click discussion on the menu bar. So, man, Gary Graham, another awesome episode in the can, another great interview in the can. We've got the Carbon Creek commentary coming up with Dayton Ward. Man, we're just going Warp 5 all the way here. So, Brandon, if our listeners want to get in touch with you to talk about all the great episodes that we've been having coming out and that we've got coming down the line, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella, and every once in a while I poke my head up in the Babel Conference. And coming very, very soon, I'm actually launching a new podcast with a couple of friends of mine called Good Evening, and it's an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Good Evening Pod, and as well, streaming around the network here with my music, playing my records and my CDs and my MP3s over on Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of Star Trek. And Floyd, where can people find you on the network?
If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can always find me on the Babel Conference, the Trek FM listeners page on Facebook. So, Boomers, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Warp 5.